We head to Italy, and more precisely to Piedmont, southeast of Turin, to set down our luggage in the small town of Alessandria. This beautiful Italian city was not only a stronghold during the Renaissance, but also the cradle of a factory that created the golden years of cinema, Borsalino. It is, moreover, Anthony Delon and Paul Belmondo, the sons of two legends of the seventh art who came for a very special inauguration, that of the Borsalino Museum, in these beautiful days of April 2023. Borsalino is the iconic brand, legend of cinema, fashion and costume that's at the origin of the classic fedoras and panamas worn by personalities such as the Pope or Winston Churchill, but especially Humphrey Bogart in Casablanca, as well as Fellini, Mastroianni and Robert De Niro, whose hats are now displayed in the new museum on behalf of the famous Italian house. This unique project was born from a collaboration between the city of Alessandria and the Borsalino Foundation, chaired by Philippe Camperio, who bought the Borsalino brand in 2018.
Much so, historical day. We are delighted to be here today. We arrived in this city 7 years ago, and our commitment to this city has always been the same. We want to maintain Borsalino in this city of Alessandria, and for us, the fact that we're opening a museum brings more content, brings more backbone to our industrial and production efforts. So for us, it's a logical step to navigate from our manufacture to a museum which reflects the history of this brand, which has been in existence for 166 years. My first emotion when I arrived in the manufacture 7 years ago was to see the level of savoir-faire, know-how, which was put in manufacturing a hat. 52 steps, 7 weeks. The love, the dedication, and the energy that each employee puts towards that. It was a big emotion for me. I think that through the museum or via the museum, if you follow the different steps of the museum, you will understand this concept of savoir-faire, manufacturing, and things.
By recreating the famous scene from the film Borsalino & Co. by Jacques Deray, released in 1974 with Alain Delon and Jean-Paul Belmondo, and whose poster overlooks the company's showroom, the actors' sons wink an amused eye to their fathers and mark the event of the leap in the history of cinema.
C'est un moment chargé d'histoire parce que d'abord les chapeaux Borsalino, pour moi, pas simplement à cause du film qu'a fait mon père, mais parce que Borsalino, les chapeaux, représentent l'histoire du cinéma.
It's a moment full of history because Borsalino hats, for me, not just because of the movie my dad made, but because Borsalino, the hats, represents the history of cinema. So obviously, there's Borsalino, the film, but there's Once Upon a Time in America, there is La Grande Bellezza by Sorrentino. There are all the gangster films that rocked my childhood, and that of many people. So it's an iconic brand, Borsalino. And it was interesting to come here to see how the hats are made. When you realize that in fact, to make a hat, it takes 7 weeks, that there are 52 steps today, or where you make things so that they are thrown away, so that they are replaced immediately. In this era of overconsumption, all of a sudden this factory, first of all, was a step back in history. These are unique pieces. These are pieces that we keep for life, and that's magnificent. There you go. So it was a very rewarding day.
Dans l'histoire, et voilà, c'est des pièces uniques, c'est des pièces qu'on garde pour la vie, et ça c'est magnifique. Voilà. Donc c'était une journée très enrichissante.
This April the 4th, the day of the museum's inauguration, also marks the 166th anniversary of the brand, created by Giuseppe Borsalino in 1857. The museum invites visitors to discover the culture of Italian millinery through its dynamic space, an emotional journey that overlaps and intertwines on several levels. The story of an entrepreneurial dynasty, its territory of origin, the artisanal tradition and the craftsmanship passed down from generation to generation.
J'ai appris énormément de choses aujourd'hui, c'est surtout ça, c'est que de la fabrique, comment se fait un chapeau, à l'histoire de...
I learned a lot of things today, how the hats are manufactured, what's the story of Borsalino. For me it's a real discovery and a lot of emotions, because I did not imagine the importance of Borsalino to Alessandria as a city. I knew the hats, I knew the film, but this is not the full history.
Bien sûr le chapeau, je connaissais le film, mais je connaissais pas en fait tout ce qui fait l'histoire justement de cette fabrique.
The two personalities visited the company and didn't miss a step in the creation of a Borsalino. Time seems to have stood still in the factory. Wooden machines dating back to 1888 mix and blow piles of rabbit hair before selecting the softest ones for stuffing, an essential material that is softer, more consistent and malleable than wool. Then these hairs, imported from Belgium and Portugal, are projected by machines from the 1940s in a cloud of steam onto a moving metal cone, before being doused with hot water. These ancestral techniques unfold according to an immutable scenario, unchanged since the founding of the brand. To make the famous felt hat, it takes 7 weeks and about 50 steps to go through, most of which are done by hand. The Borsalino, 180,000 of which are made each year, costs €300 on average, or even 1,650 euros for the most expensive, the extra fine Panama Monte Cristi, which takes 6 months to make. From the factory to the equally legendary boutique, Anthony Delon and Paul Belmondo visibly fell under the spell of Borsalino creations, and did not leave without first having a little fun.